Hello again, and welcome to the St. Louis Blues Hockey Legends podcast. Tom Calhoun here to shine a light on the stories of those instrumental in blues history. The Blues Legends podcast is presented by Sarah Honda, O'Fallon, Illinois. Check out all the great deals and their 618 Sarah Bucks offer at sarahhondaofallon.com. And be sure to mention you heard it on the Blues Hockey Legends podcast. On this episode, it's another of our own super shows. The bonus round podcasts have become a favorite, and this one features 5 legends: Ken Wilson, Jamal Mayers, Jim Thomas, Joe Micheletti, and Adam Oates. In this never-before-presented material, they all react to the names of players, coaches, and the people of their hockey lives. Most are the reaction you would expect, but some might raise an eyebrow or two. Stick around, we'll get started with the thoughts of Ken "Oh Baby" Wilson in 60 seconds.
When it's time to find your next car, what's changed in your life? What's driving you to start the process? What are you really looking for? These are the questions we're asking at Sarah Honda. We believe in real communication, real problem solving, and trustworthy long-term relationships with our customers. We're part of your community, and we want you to be part of ours. At Sarah Honda, the experience drives everything. You've got a lot going on in life, and you depend on your car to get you to places you need to be. So when it's time for maintenance or repair, we know you need it done fast and done right. Convenience and quality customer service with team members you can trust. That's what you're looking for. We'll get you safely back on the road and back to your busy life. At Sarah Honda, the experience drives everything.
Couple of names for you to react to, if you don't mind. I always ask about your thoughts about Bob Plager.
Fun, always got a joke. Obviously, was a very good player. Might have been in the shadow of Barkley a little bit, but he's the kind of guy you couldn't help but like.
Brett Hull.
Fun. Brett Hull, I remember his smile, and I would say to people, besides the obvious that he had a quick release and he could score goals, Brett had a smile that almost hid his childishness. He had a lot of little kid in him, and I always liked Brett. He was terrific to me.
Hall of Famer Bernie Federko.
Bernie was great to work with. Bernie's a very kind individual, smart, and the kind of guy you'd want to be your friend. Is he just a jovial, carefree guy? No. Is he a real serious guy? No. I'd say Bernie Federko is a real balanced individual who you would want to work with, you would want as your friend, and I truly enjoyed working with Bernie.
Joe Micheletti.
Joe Micheletti, I thought Joe Micheletti was very good, and I say that in my book. There's no question he was very good. I was a little disappointed that, and I say this in the book also, that Joe in the end I didn't think was as dedicated to the Blues as he might have been. He and I were, I thought, a good team, and then he took off and went to Minnesota, and then he was back. I thought we were a good team. Then he took off and went to the New York Islanders, and Joe was going to do what you do. You try to improve your status in your career, but he was easy to work with. He was very thorough, and I appreciated the opportunity to work with him and had a lot of respect for his abilities, and I see that he's retiring.
Yeah, and he's talking about moving back to St. Louis, so that's going to be interesting, and we'll have him on the podcast at some point later this summer. Bruce, after retiring as the Alumni Association Executive Director, what are your thoughts about Bruce?
I thought Bruce was very amiable and enjoyable. I thought he was very good with tickets. Of course, when you're on the outside and you need a couple tickets, you call Bruce, and Bruce was always willing to help out and never made it seem like it was a challenge or difficult. And being a ticket manager, that's not one of the better jobs in sports. That's a tough job. And he had that job for a long time, and I always respected that, he was so good at it. And when he was on the air with us, he had a nice smile, spoke well, talked hockey, and I thought he was a real asset And I always liked Bruce and always enjoyed working with him.
Let me hit you with a few baseball names as we wrap it up. I read where you were influenced as a young man by Ernie Harwell. What were your thoughts? What are your thoughts about Ernie?
Ernie Harwell was a great human being, and anybody will tell you that. He was very religious and just as nice as they come. When he came to Detroit in the early 60s when I was going into high school. And I was really paying attention to broadcasting. And he was a terrific baseball announcer. Okay. He was just terrific. And he was a journalist. He's from the Red Barber School. No nicknames, no, and that's me. I am Ernie Harwell, Red Barber. Vin Scully's from the same school. And when I was going into college, I wanted to get some help. I would write to Ernie. He would write back. He'd invite me to Tiger Stadium to sit with him in the booth, join him in the press room after the game. And once I asked him to listen to a tape of mine, and he did. And he had some advice, and he was the very, very best.
Hmm. Sounds like he took Ken Wilson under his wing. That's great. You mentioned this man during the podcast that you worked with him calling games in Hawaii, I understand. Al Michaels. He's made quite a career for himself. He's gotten a little controversial here over the last few years. What do you have to say about Al?
Al's smart, and he's very good on the air. Uh, Al's a baseball guy, okay? And no one will ever tell me anything different. I know Al. Al's a baseball guy, okay? I'm a baseball and a hockey guy. Somebody asked me to go do 5 seasons of the NFL. There's not enough money on the table. I'm a baseball and a hockey guy. And, I've done other things because I've been asked or I had to by contract. But Al was he's, I think, 2 years older than I am. And when he and I worked together in Hawaii, I had never worked anywhere. And he had only been there for a season and a half. And he was terrific to work for. No ego, just, easy to work for and work with. We did a little traveling. He was terrific. And you knew he had a lot of talent. He was a young Vin Scully. He grew up with Vin Scully. He admits to wanting to sound like Vin Scully. And I mean, it's great that he's had this great career and made more money than you and I can count. But I've always thought to myself, here's a guy that should have done baseball for 50 years and nothing else. Maybe that was a little too boring for him, but I don't, congratulations to Al. He's a terrific guy and a terrific broadcaster, and success is hard to deny, and he's been highly successful.
The Do You Believe in Miracles? Yes is almost as famous as the Oh Babies of Ken Wilson. How about that?
I wouldn't put them in the same league, but they're similar.
Next up, we throw the names at Jammer, Jamal Mayers. Bob Plager.
Oh, legend. Oh, the OG, the original blue.
Yeah. Keith Kachuk, Big Walt.
Oh, just a beast.
Pretty good captain too, right?
Absolutely. Great teammate. Great to staff. Great to all the people that work around the rink. Great to people. It's one of the best qualities that he passed on to his boys.
Barrett Jackman taking over the alumni group.
Oh, just a solid human, good person, genuine, honest, great teammate.
Chaser, Kelly Chase.
Warrior, in every sense of the word. When he played, not sure how he fought the toughest, but he did. And how he continues to battle is remarkable.
Your friend Bryce Salvador.
Self-made. guy who found a way to continue to push and make himself better every single day and squeezed everything he could out of his ability.
David Backus.
Similarly, hardworking, competitive, and great teammate.
Jonathan Taves, back in the league in Winnipeg, playing again.
Yeah, ultimate captain, one of the most competitive people I've ever met, and a tremendous pulse on the room.
Our next legend, writer Jim Thomas, on the people he encountered covering the Blues and the Rams for the Post-Dispatch. His book, Blues, the Franchise, is now available on Amazon. How about Doug Armstrong?
Armstrong, to be honest, I'd heard bad things about him. He was great to deal with. He was honest. If he couldn't tell you something, he couldn't tell you. He was great to work with. And I've told him many times, he does great press conferences. I always tell him, you need to do more of these.
And his successor coming, Alexander Steen.
Highest amount of respect for Alex Steen. He was kind of on the downside when I came in. When you talked to Steen as a reporter, you were always a little nervous because he didn't suffer fools. You better ask a good question. If you ask a stupid question, he'd let you know.
All right. You've already talked about Jordan Binnington, but give me a couple of lines on him.
Well, Jordan, I interviewed him before he was really a thing, and he was so far down the depth chart, Tom. He was in the other locker room. You know, in camp, they don't have room in the main locker room at Enterprise. He was in what we call the ghetto. So when I interviewed him, he had a chip on his shoulder, you know, that he had something to prove. And I'm like, man, there's something different about this guy. That was my first impression. That was the camp of the Stanley Cup season. And then he comes out of nowhere. Biggest out of nowhere story this side of Kurt Warner, I would say.
So that leads me to the next guy, Kurt Warner. I was going to ask you about him. He's one of my favorite athletes of all time.
Fantastic guy. You know, the last time I saw him was at the Dick Vermeil, the post Hall of Fame induction party, and Kurt hasn't changed. Down to earth as ever. He asked me if I'd seen his movie, you know, American Underdog. I said no. He pretended like he was mad at me. 5 minutes later, he shows up and he hands me, what do they call them? Compact disc or CDs. He says, here, watch it. I still haven't watched it, Tom. Confession, I can't find it. I don't know what I did with it here at home.
And let's wrap it up with Dick Vermeil.
Vermeil, nicest man in the world. So much energy. Very good to me. And one thing that amazed me was he knew everybody's name at Rams Park, from the janitor to the team president. There was such a negative vibe in that building when he came in because they had been losing. And it was a tough thing to do, but he changed the vibe of that building. And that was as much a factor as anything else that they did.
Former Blues defenseman and hockey broadcasting great Joe Micheletti is up next. Dan Kelly.
Changed my life because of what he did for my career. I think of him all the time. And anytime anybody says, boy, you've had a good career, I say, yeah, but here's why. And that's why, because of Dan Kelly.
Red Berenson.
A brilliant coach. He talked when he thought it was important. And when he did talk, what he said was something you'd say as a player, oh, I wish I would have thought of that. And a great teacher, and, you know, should have coached in the league for a lot longer than he did. But so much respect for Red and what he's done throughout his career.
You talked a lot about the Plaguers in the regular podcast, but quick thought or two about Bob and Barkley.
They're just, you know what, you go through life and you go through different cities, and there's certain people that are just a part of that city, and they're special to that city on so many levels, not just the fact that they were athletes, but it was the people that they were, two different people. Barkley taught me so much, and was such a supporter of mine, taught me how to run a power play. I mean, I could do it a little bit before, but Barkley wasn't known for his offensive, but really showed me how to run a power play. And Bobby, with his love for the game, his love for the team, and his love for the people of St. Louis, they just meant so much to the city. And I think of St. Louis, anybody that thinks of St. Louis or thinks of St. Louis Blues hockey, these are two people that are synonymous.
How about the Hall of Famer number 24, Bernie Federko?
Amazing player. People used to talk about behind the net was Wayne Gretzky's office. Bernie was so underrated with the way that he played behind the net. He took a lot of abuse, and he was such a gutsy player that he would take a hit to make a play just about as well as anyone. And I think of Bernie individually, that 80-81 team where we had a chance to win a Stanley Cup, and that's the only thing that's missing from his great career.
If you missed Joe's original podcast, listening to this one, I was going to ask him about Herb Brooks, but he has so much good stuff in the regular podcast. You need to go back and listen to that, about his thoughts about Herb. How about Brian Sutter?
Do anything to win. Great captain, great friend to a lot of people. I remember when I first got to St. Louis, Brian was really the first one that welcomed me there, and so to see a player like him will go through a wall to win for you, and on top of that, everybody talks about he was so tough and so determined, and he was the perfect complement for Bernie because he helped Bernie get a little bit more room on the ice, and Brian, offensively was a really good player as well. And so I just think that, he'll go down in lore as one of the great captains that franchise has ever had.
I don't know if you had many dealings with him, but how about the Professor, Ron Caron?
I loved him. I loved Ron because, when you talk about people, I think for people that would watch Blues on television, and in particular in the playoffs, I don't know if there's ever been a general manager as enthusiastic and who cared more for his team and his franchise than Ron. And great storyteller, but if you became a friend of Ron's and Ron had $1 left, and if you were a friend of his and you went to Ron and said, I need help, he would give you the dollar. That's him.
Oh, boy, that's a good one. How about a guy that you ran into when you went to work for the Rangers, who's still trying to play hockey, I understand? Jaromir Jagr. He had a couple of great seasons there back in the aughts.
These I've always said this about Hall of Fame players. Not only are they great when you watch them play, but there's something different about them. They see the game in a whole different light than others. And when you talk to them and you say something about the game or about the sport, and they say something back, you go, boy, oh boy, how come I didn't see that? And I remember broadcasting games, and whether it was Jagr or somebody, another Hall of Famer or two, like my son-in-law, and I'd say, what'd you think of the game? What'd you see at the game? And they'd say something, and I'd say, I wish I'd seen that. I wish I would have seen that, because then I could have, sounded smart. And with Jagr, he just never wanted to quit. And he's as determined a player as there's ever been. Wanted the puck all the time to make a play. And if, in And sometimes the criticism of great players is that they don't understand why other players can't see things the way they do. And he could be critical of that too. He could be critical of players but that was just his greatness. And I think he's going to finally stop this year, but what a player.
And we'll wrap it up with the great one. You've had some dealings, I'm sure, with number 99. You said you played with him early on in his career, Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah. So when people ask me about Wayne, of course, there's, you can talk hockey. I would say that when we were teammates, when I met him and he was 17, and when you talk to him throughout his career, and now that he's well past his career in broadcasting, he hasn't changed. He was someone that came in, it was amazing at the time. And again, and this is pre-internet, pre-social media. But when he came to Edmonton as a 17-year-old, and the amount of cameras and reporters that he had to deal with on a daily basis, and as a 17-year-old, I remember sitting there watching him thinking, oh my God, I could never do this. Answer tough questions, never get flustered, speak clearly, well thought out answers, and a love for the sport. I mean, that was Wayne. A wonderful, wonderful person that never changed.
Our final legend is Hockey Hall of Famer and half of the Hull and Oates combo, Adam Oates. How about Al McInnes?
Well, what a fantastic shot.
Yeah, that's the first thing that comes to most people's mind.
Oh, yeah.
How about Bobby Plager? He was around when you were playing here in St. Louis.
You know what? He was always around and always a nice guy. Never got too close with him, but obviously he was Mr. Blue, right?
Mm-hmm. You got to have a reaction or a thought or two about that other guy in the Hull and Oates combination. How about Brett Hull?
I say it all the time. People don't give him enough credit for being smart. He's a really smart guy.
Outstanding. Wayne Gretzky, how about the great one? Did you have any time to play with him along the way?
I did not, but I grew up pretty close to him. He's only 1 year older than me, and I feel like he was another one of my idols. I tried to mold my game after him.
Bernie Federko played at about the same time you guys did too, and he always, I think, kind of was in the shadow of Mr. Gretzky for a long time. Do you feel that way?
Well, I don't even put my name in the same sentence as him, so not really. Just, I mean, like I said, I try to mold my game after the guy.
Yeah, you were traded for Bernie. What do you think? What are your thoughts about Mr. Federko?
I thought Bernie was a fantastic player. He was. I like to think we're very similar players.
Thanks for being with me for another episode of the St. Louis Blues Hockey Legends podcast. We'll have another legend coming up soon, so stay tuned to our social media for news on who that legend might be. Visit PAGuyTom.com or BluesHockeyLegends.com and sign up for our Legends email notifications. The Legends podcast is also available on the Scoops Sports Network at scoopswithdannymac.com. Video of the podcast is published the Monday after the Friday release of the audio. As always, please like and share on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It all keeps the Legends podcast alive and well. Tom Calhoun here saying thanks for being a fan, and let's go Blues!